What was the thing I wanted to talk? So I think if you guys are following me on my channel, I'm assuming you've seen. I discovered why my handheld blower wasn't working, which is the fact that and I've never seen this before, but the spark plug wire snapped in half. I don't know how that's even possible. I mean, I've never touched it, you know? Like I've never taken the spark plug boot off the spark plug. So I have no idea how that could have possibly snapped, but it stands to reason that's probably why it won't start. You know what they say, you need spark to run, and if that wire is snipped, then or broken, it's not snipped. I mean, it looks like it just broke. I honestly don't understand how that could have happened. But so that it needs to be replaced. So I called my local steel dealer. It was funny because, like, you know, I'm sure they get a lot of phone calls from people that think they know what they're talking about, and honestly, I'm guilty of being one of those people. But in this situation, it's pretty obvious what's wrong, and so I said I need a new ignition coil for the BG50 handheld blower. And the guy goes, "No, you don't. Those things pretty much never go bad." And I was like, well, this one did go bad. And he was like, are you sure? How do you know? And it's like, well, the wire broke. So I'm sure the actual coil itself is fine, but the wire broke. And he was like, yeah, I guess that would do it. You know, it's another thing that's kind of a bummer about this pandemic is you can't really or you can, but it's not as easy. There's not as much of a plethora of aftermarket parts. So, I mean, you know, this is a $140 blower, and I just gave the steel dealer $38 for the ignition coil. But when I went on Amazon to look, I know you're never supposed to admit you shop on Amazon. I'm so sorry. But I went on Amazon, and they only had one ignition coil for the BG50 available. And, you know, it's from China. It was $13. Now, I've never had a problem with Chinese ignition coils. So, I mean, shoot, I'd have bought that. But it had like a 2-month wait on it. And I didn't really feel like waiting that long for it. Because I got to be honest with you, man. I am so over using my backpack blower for my everyday work. I mean, don't get me wrong, this thing is awesome, it's great, but it's just such a process and such a hassle. And I don't feel like getting into the whole conversation again, because I definitely kind of rubbed some backpack blower people the wrong way the last time I talked about this. But I just don't like it. I just don't like using the backpack blower is my everyday deal, like, because there's just so many times where it just changes the way I do things, you know, because now, you know, you can slide through certain things, or you might be able to walk between people's cars when you got the handheld, but then if you got the backpack, then you got to make sure you're not, you know, when you're walking sideways, that you're not gonna like rub their car with the backpack. And then, like, you know, you can only have the blower in your right hand. I switch hands with my blower all the time, depending on what I'm doing and which way I want the clippings to go. But with a backpack, you're just kind of locked in. It's got to be in your right hand. There's no other way around it, you know. And I just don't like that. It feels very limiting. So I'm very grateful for it. It's definitely a huge step up from the steel BR550 that I had. But I'll also definitely, and I'll be putting it to good use come the fall. But as soon as my handheld blower is fixed, man, I am putting that sucker back to work.